It's Monday. It's 3 p.m.-ish. She's Sophia Jones. I'm Cyrus Saatsaz. This is the V for Valkyries edition of Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. Leave me alone this summer.
Let's go.
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up.
I will trim the beer too, Mom. I love it. Welcome to the Golden Days. You can follow Sophia Jones. This is the V for Valkyries edition of Golden Days. You can follow Sophia Jones on Twitter at SophiaJones_2. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads and Instagram at DogWild. Over on Twitter, I'm at Surf Journalist. The program on both platforms at Golden Days Pod. It's Monday. That's the only downside I feel like to our show. But hopefully we're starting the week making your life better and easier. Sophia, how are you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. Just post All-Star break for the WNBA, back into the full swing of things. So I'm happy to be watching Valkyries basketball again.
We're going to be talking a lot about Valkyries basketball because they have been in the news, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons, not because they're winning. There's some struggles going on there. They've lost 4 of 5, I believe. They're still in the playoff hunt, but they lost their best player for the year. Why don't we start there? We'll give some love to our sponsors in just a second, but that was devastating news. I don't think that was official the last time you were on the show. Kayla Thornton, the team's first All-Star ever, officially out. How serious is the knee injury that is forcing her to miss the rest of the season? Provide us with all the information you can, Sophia.
So she underwent right knee surgery, successful surgery at least, on Friday. That officially ruled her out for the season. I don't have any details on what injury it could have been that might have led to the surgery or what the surgery was. That is kind of just, I believe the front office and the coaching staff is letting Kayla and her family have their space. And whenever she's ready to kind of say that stuff, that's when they're going to let her.
So different from the NBA, right? Where like, you know, we usually get detailed information pertaining to an individual's health situation that causes them to miss games, at least on the most part. There's always been a few interesting cases that went where they were able to keep the specifics, the details under wraps. I always think back to, I think it was 2009, when Kevin Garnett missed basically the entire postseason for the Boston Celtics as they were attempting to win a title, to repeat. I can't remember what the year was exactly, but Kevin Garnett, I know, missed an entire postseason with a knee ailment that we never figured out what it was. They just kept saying knee, and they never got into specifics. And then this recent postseason, we had another Celtics player, Kristaps Porzingis, who for almost an entire year of an NBA season was dealing with a mystery ailment. All they would tell us is that it was viral. We never got details. Still don't know what afflicted him. That severely affected the Celtics in a year where they were trying to repeat as world champions. My point is, every once in a while there is mystery that surrounds these injuries where we don't get the full details. And so you're telling me with Kayla Thornton, what we do know is she had knee surgery and she's going to miss the rest of the season because of that. Easily the team's best player, again, the first All-Star in the franchise's history, but we don't know if it's like a torn ACL. Like we as of right now, the public don't know what the specific injury is.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's just and before the home game on Friday against the Dallas Wings, when head coach Nana Lacoste was asked about that, she was just basically said the same thing that I did, that they're really just leaving it up to Kayla Thornton and her family to have that space in their recovery. And if she wants to make a statement or whenever she's ready, if that ever happens, then that might be when we know more information. But just the facts of knee surgery, out for season.
Armando Lara in the chat, who's a regular co-host with me at times. He writes the Spreewell is right Substack. Strongly recommend checking that out, writing that the 76ers are also known for hiding injuries too. Look, enjoy the relative obscurity. I don't know if obscurity is the right word, but the point is enjoy the lack of scrutiny, if you will, from the media. This message from me going out to the WNBA, because the bigger you get, the more scrutiny is going to come. And right now, again, like, enjoy the freedom because you don't have media hounding you for what the specifics are. But that sucks, man. And her impact, her loss has clearly been felt. As I mentioned a moment ago, the Valkyries have dropped in the standings. They've lost 4 of 5. And then they have this other issue going on, and that's one of the players they got in the expansion draft. And I'm totally Kate Martin. Is that her name, right? Is that who I'm talking about here? Kate Martin, who's been getting DNPs?
It was one of them against the Dallas Wings. I honestly, I'll get into more after we play the clip, I think, but I wouldn't really consider it too much of an issue. It's just kind of an interesting strategy.
Yeah, and we'll see what that means exactly. And the soundbite you're referring to is Valkyries head coach Natalie Nakase, who spoke after the Wings game. This was 2 days ago? Is that correct? Approximately?
Friday.
It was a home game, right?
It's 3 days ago.
3 days ago, it was a home game against the Wings, against Paige Beckers and company. And then we're going to talk about the ridiculous turnaround of the schedule, because in the NBA, this would be headline news if a team was forced to play a home game on the West Coast and then less than 48 hours later play a late morning, early afternoon game on the East Coast in Connecticut. Yet that is what the schedule presented for the Valkyries. It's insane. And maybe it's pertinent because that is at least part of the reasoning for head coach Nakase's benching of Kate Martin. Let's hear from the head coach herself, Natalie Nakase, and she spoke to the media after that Wings loss. That was a loss, correct? Or did they win that game?
We beat the Wings.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so that was the one win out of the last 5. So this was after the win. Kate Martin did not play, and here was head coach Nakase's reasoning for giving the DNP to Kate Martin.
Yeah, we had 6 games in 10 days. Before the All-Star break, we had 6 games in 12 days, so I'm just kind of being mindful. And so we'll see, moving forward, because that is not a lot of downtime. So, and we have, I think, 10 flights in between. So we'll see how this goes.
Last one.
You went with Carla, Janelle, and Ileana, the French trio.
Okay, there we go. So it ends there. My question to you, Sophia, and I know you've got a delicate balance to negotiate here. You work for the Valkyries, you're their color analyst. I'm not going to grill you on this, but my question is, if you don't mind me asking, do you think that was a genuine answer? Meaning, do you really think that's the reason why she got the DNP, or could this be a sign of a potential trade forthcoming? Because the trade deadline is approaching for the WNBA, correct?
It is. And to answer your question, I think that is a truthful answer, because even so on Friday, the Valkyries, they played at 7 p.m. at home here in San Francisco. Same night, they had to fly out to the East Coast, to Connecticut. So imagine not really getting any sleep Friday night. And then on Sunday, it's a 1 p.m. tip, East Coast time, 10 a.m. West Coast, where their bodies are feeling like they are. So it's an extremely quick turnaround. And Kate Martin, in last game versus the Connecticut Sun, she played 21 minutes. So her minutes weren't an issue then. So I don't really think it's part of a larger anything. I really just do think that it's going to take a lot of body management in this upcoming stretch. The team plays tomorrow against Atlanta, Thursday against Washington. Okay, I'll say at Atlanta tomorrow, Thursday at Washington, Friday at Chicago, Sunday at Las Vegas, back here next Wednesday against Las Vegas. So it's a really tough stretch coming up with a lot of games, a lot of flights. So with already a couple numbers down, and against the Dallas Wings, who had one of the worst records in the league, it was kind of just maybe a little bit of a safety move.
So you played it safe. And in your opinion, when is the trade deadline, by the way? I know it's coming up, but I don't know what the exact date is. Do you?
You know what? Let me look it up very quickly.
Okay. And I don't think that's that important. Don't sweat over that. But I know it's approaching. And so my last question in regards to this topic, and again, my perspective when it comes to the Valkyries is almost I'm a fan. this is a new team. I'm still very new to the WNBA as a whole. I will never pretend I'm an expert on that side of basketball, that league, and so forth, because I don't cover it enough to pretend like I can sit here and talk like I'm some authority figure. You are, though, and I will defer to you on all this. When with the trade deadline approaching, is Kate Martin going to be a member of the Valkyries when that deadline passes, in your opinion? I know you don't know this for certain, but just your opinion.
I think she will. The trade deadline I just looked up is August 7th. So at 12 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
And I think if I would have to guess, because this roster has seen so much change throughout the course of the season, I would think that maybe at this point they just want some stability, and any type of movement might be just unwanted, if that's the correct word to use. Just like I mentioned, if you have too much instability, it's hard to create consistency.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And that's a message I routinely espouse when it comes to the Warriors, and why I think this whole offseason is insane to me, and why I do think Kuminga has some leverage in this. I understand the math side of it, the market side of it. He has no leverage. He like, it's insane. He put himself, and this message is directed to his agent as well, in this situation where you have no space across the landscape. Anyways, sorry to deflect there, or to diverge there for a second, but Kuminga is on my mind, and I think about that a lot. But Valkyries, real fast. I speaking of the Wings, if I remember correctly, the Wings upset the Valkyries earlier this season. I'm trying to find the Valks schedule right now so I can confirm that, because I remember that game. So have they only played twice? Was this their payback?
Yes, it was. And so on that first loss, that was also when the team first kind of had a lot of departures because of Eurobasket. So it was then when they were kind of figuring out how to all play with each other as well. So this was definitely a good game to get back a little bit in the win column back on Friday to win. And Dallas, despite their record and having one of the worst in the league, the talent that the roster has does not reflect that. It's very easy to say that. But between Paige Beckers and Enrique Gumbuale, those are some of just the most talented players in the WNBA, in my opinion.
And look, what goes without saying. I mean, especially when you factor in the NCAA experience of so many of those players. And elites to this clip, I have to play this on the show. I saw this the other day. I think you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what Wings game this was, but Dallas Wings fans are not very happy with the head coach. And he's got some interesting nicknames associated with him. Look, who am I to judge when it comes to a man bun? I've got a beard that makes me look like I should be living on the streets of San Francisco right now. Side note, Mom, I promise this thing's going to get cut. A huge reason why this monstrosity still exists in my face is because every now and again, the West Coast has been experiencing a colder than usual summer. And I've been longboarding out there every once in a while. Like once a week, I'll go out into the ocean. And this thing's keeping me warm. It has not been a warm summer. And if you surf in Northern California, those ocean temps are lower than usual. The air temperature is lower than usual. I'm a skin cancer survivor, so I like the clouds up there blocking out some of the sun. But with that said, this thing is making me feel good out there, but I also know what it looks like. It looks like a monstrosity. My mom is giving me so much shit about this beard, and I get it. It'll be cut soon. But just this is the summer of inactivity. This thing on my face, I think, symbolizes the Golden State Warriors and the inactivity that has gone on in terms of them being virtually incomplete. We'll touch on that in a second. I was talking about Paige Beckers here, and I want to play this clip because I brought up the beard because the Wings head coach has a man bun. You're going to see it in this clip right now. A lot of Wings fans are accusing him being their head coach for nepotistic reasons because he's close with the GM, the former coach of the Wings. And you could obviously jump in on this as well. But this clip is making the rounds, and I think for damn good reason. What is the name of the head coach of the Wings? I don't have his name memorized.
Chris Koklanis.
Chris Koklanis.
Yes.
And this clip shows Wings players during a timeout with McClanis, I hope I just got his name right.
Koklanis.
Up a play for the team. And these three players in the clip have all played for Hall of Fame coaches at the NCAA level. So they're looking at this scripted play going, what the hell is this guy doing? Comedy. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Play here tonight and in Valhalla. 17 points, 6 assists, 4 steals. Became the fastest player, tied for fastest, to reach 300 points and 100 assists for a career.
So again, if you're watching this on, or I'm sorry, if you're listening to the podcast, you missed the video side of this. Sophia, you could describe it far better than me. This was taken, by the way, from the most recent game at Chase Center. This was the Wings Valkyries game. Sophia, take it away. What did we witness there? Because I thought I was laughing. Even now, I'm still.
Because I didn't see that during the game on our broadcast, but I caught it after. And that, for some context also, Wings were down in that last minute of the game, and there were 59 seconds remaining on the clock when head coach Chris Koklanos was drawing up that play. And let me just check what the final score from that game was.
I'm going to share the screen again, but I'll leave it on
Yeah.
mute just so people can see this clip just on loop. We won't let the audio interrupt, but who are the players alongside Beckers?
Yes. So on the left, it was Arike Gumbawale, who played at Notre Dame. Middle, Paige Beckers, played at UConn, coached by Gino Ariema. Right, Haley Jones, played at Stanford, coached by Tara Vanderveer. So it was actually, side note, very nice moment for Haley Jones to return to the Bay Area. But so with 59 seconds left, Dallas has 76 points, and they finished the game with 76 points. So I think the Valkyries just really locked up on defense. And yeah.
And that look right there, that I think that's the funniest part of all this. Like there is no hiding how these two individuals are feeling about this specific script here. It's sometimes communication does not need words, and that's a perfect example of that. Do you wonder what's the background in terms of the coach, by the way, in case you're wondering, because this clip originated from someone else, obviously, and the OP. Darn it, they were calling this guy like Steven Seagal Man Bun. I think that was the nickname they were giving this guy. I'm trying to. The OP had it, but it lost it. What is your take on the coaching situation with the Wings real fast? Like, do you understand why Wings fans don't like this guy? Because he doesn't seem very popular. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love some context from you.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like the roster and the talent that the Dallas Wings have isn't really a reflection of their record. So I think just in all, they've had a little bit of a rough season. There have been a couple injuries throughout as well. Dejanay Carrington, last year's most improved player in the WNBA, she's been out with a rib injury for a couple games. Paige Beckers was dealing with a concussion earlier. Arike, she was dealing with a thumb, and she was out for a bit. So I think a lot of injuries contributed to this Wings record, which is why I think on any given night you can't underestimate them. But I can see where kind of sometimes where NBA front offices, when their team underperforms, they just immediately look towards the coach, which might not necessarily have merits all the time, but that could potentially be something that we're seeing here with the Wings.
Yeah, and again, the reactions were gold. And if you're listening to the podcast, apologies in advance for just simply not being able to provide the context that clip deserves, audibly speaking. So nonetheless, that happened. That was the only win in the last 5 games for the Valkyries. So what do they have coming up on the upcoming schedule before we shift gears here and talk Warriors? Are you worried about them? Like was the Kayla Thornton injury basically just, a nail in the coffin for this team this year? Because before the injury, I believe they were 6th in the WNBA overall. They were above 500. Now they find themselves, I think, 2 games below 500, maybe even 3. I believe they fall into 9th in the standings. Correct me if I'm wrong on all that. It might be.
So it's 2 games under 500. They're in 9th place right now. I don't think there's any type of panic button that needs to be hit right now. I would say in these 2 games that I haven't really looked the greatest, even though Golden State beat the Wings. I wouldn't say it was the cleanest game. They've been missing Kayla Thornton, but they've also been missing Monique Billings, who
Ooh.
like Bruce Morrow said, they lost their heart. I think that she provides so much of that, so much energy, communication on both sides of the floor. In watching yesterday's game, where it just felt like there were a lot of miscues that happen offensively and defensively. Sometimes a lot of that is just not having your quarterback in that main voice. And so I think just having both of those people out right now at the same time has really hurt as well. But Mo is questionable for tomorrow. She's been dealing with a left ankle. So hoping to see her back soon as well. And just hoping for hoping for a speedy, safe, healthy recovery for her.
Same. I hope she's okay too. And we'll see what happens with the Valkyries. Again, the Billings injury is devastating. You could be the greatest coach ever, but if you don't have talent, there's only so much you can do. Is Natalie Nicoste going to win Coach of the Year in your opinion? I know there's still a lot of season to go. Where we just had the All-Star break, but I'm getting some buzz. I'm hearing some chatter that she is the favorite. And side note, starting next week, we're going to be able to hype up FanDuel as an official sponsor. I'm elated about that. They're part of Believe. They're sponsoring all the top shows for the network, and we're again elated to be a part of that. And I can't wait to start using the FanDuel Sportsbook because it is expansive. Chances are, I haven't taken a look at it yet, but chances are you could actually bet on something like who's going to win Coach of the Year in the WNBA. I don't know what the odds are. I can look that up right now, I guess, but see if they have it, but sometimes it takes a while. I won't. We're on a short clock today. But with that said, is Natalie Nicoste going to be Coach of the Year in your opinion? And who else is in the running if not her?
So Coach Nicoste won WNBA Coach of the Month for the month of June. And so I think that really catapulted her into the top of these conversations. And this month of July has been really, really tough for the Valkyries. So I think it hurts her positioning a little bit, but I wouldn't say it completely takes her out of the conversation. There's still a lot of season left, and I 100% think that the Valkyries have a lot of time to turn this around. But I think when you look at what she has been able to do with just a team that didn't exist
Yeah.
a year ago,
Yeah.
I think that's so impressive. So,
Agreed.
in my opinion, I think she should get Coach of the Year. Just like
Same.
honestly, regardless of what happens and how the season ends, I just think she should get Coach of the Year.
And I'll say this: if anything, the injury to Thornton, if the Valkyries can turn it around without her, I think all that does is seal Coach of the Year for head coach Nicoste. Because if you can still put out even like a 500 product for the rest of the season, that says a lot about what you're doing as the head coach of this team. But the injuries have been rough, and there's always so much you can do when your best talent.
And I would say just kind of last thing, and I feel like this is a really good indication of what kind of Coach Nicoste is. When Kayla Thornton went down, she said, or she told us, the media, she said that they lost their all-star, but everyone on the team is still stars. And it sounds so just kind of like, I don't know, like cutesy, but as a player, as a former player, having a coach who believes in you and instills confidence in you can make all the difference in the world. And so for her to just continually do that, and I agree. I mean, I think 1 through 12, everyone on the Valkyries is stars, and they really have all stepped up at different points in the season at different times. It's just going to be needed to be a little bit more consistent now, but I 100% think that this team still has the star power to overcome this.
And we shall see what happens. And that's the beauty of sports, right? It's like the never-ending narrative. It's a story unraveling in real time for you, unwrapping for you in real time. And we shall see what happens with the Valkyries. And again, every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, we're here to talk about them and the Warriors, of course. We're going to talk about the Warriors next because even though there's a lot of inactivity, within that, there's some nuggets that I picked out and want to discuss. More specifically, in this case, on today's show, Kuminga's agent and where maybe the issue, at least partly, is lying on that side of things, that specific variable. I'll explain what I mean in just a minute. Got to give some love first and foremost, though, to our sponsors. And for today, we just got one, and that's Decades, a cover band that's all about making your event better, maybe more fun, more lively, more entertaining. The band was just in, I believe, Iowa. I'm following them on social media, and so can you. They're on Facebook and Instagram at Decades Official, and they played an event that I think had close to 20,000 people. That's what you can hire for your event, whether it's a birthday, a wedding, an anniversary. Maybe it's a corporate fundraiser. You're aiming for a Catalina wine mixer type of vibe where you need a prestige worldwide event, a band, to come in there and seal the deal for some potential clients for you. That's what Decades can do for you. They're a cover band playing everything from the 50s to today, from Chuck Berry to Katy Perry. And if you mention us, you can get a discount as well. Go to decadesofficial.com or email Kyle at atomicmusicgroup.com. Again, Kyle at atomicmusicgroup.com to book them today. They're NorCal natives. They're from Chico. They're Golden Dazers. They're Niner fans. They play every pregame party next door to Levi Stadium over at Great America. They call those red zone rallies. Decades is the band playing that, and they could play your event. Go to decadesofficial.com. Again, decadesofficial.com. Book Decades. Have an amazing band playing your event, and thank us later. I'm not going to thank Jonathan Kuminga. And let me rephrase that. I'm not going to thank Jonathan Kuminga's agent for doing good things lately, however, because we're in a standoff. It's almost August. And the reason why August is a very important month in all this, and Sophia, please jump in, obviously, at any point if you have thoughts or opinions or anything, corrections. This is the time of year when players start coming back into town. The media is not invited for these practices typically, although I imagine if a media member said, hey, I want to hang out at Chase Center and see who shows up, you can do that. But a lot of scrimmages, a lot of workouts, the gym starts being utilized. August is insanely important for chemistry building. Steve Kerr himself said that he's not worried about integrating Jonathan Kuminga as a starter in terms of a bigger role because he expects Kuminga to be around this summer. He ain't around yet. He's not going to be around as long as he's not signed. And I want to play this clip, which it further at least reinforces to me, and I'm going to explain why I think the agent is a part of the issue here when it comes to Kuminga, because what I learned recently, and I'm going to explain what I learned in just a second, doesn't sit well with me. Anyways, and I'll explain what I mean. But I first want to play this clip. This is because Kuminga's agent has been going around trying to save face and trying to convince people that $30 million was not offered to him a year ago that he subsequently turned down. The reason why we even mentioned $30 million, the reason why that's even a talking point, why that's a point that is a number specifically that we're discussing, is because a year ago, Anthony Slater reported in The Athletic, like fact, that the Warriors offered him 30, he wanted 35, and he turned down the Warriors' $30 million a year contract. Slater reported this. That's why I'm saying this right now. Fast forward a year, okay? Nearly 365 days have passed, and during that time, nothing was said until now. Now, suddenly, Anthony Slater is coming out saying, I don't know if that $30 million is actually offered, basically pretending that that was never a thing. Bonte Hill, who doesn't usually report facts, he's not a reporter, he's an anchor for NBC Sports Bay Area. He's suddenly going on podcasts saying, I don't know where that $30 million came from. It came from this guy. Slater reported it because the agent told him that. And now he's backtracking. I want to play this clip first and then explain to you the full picture in terms of what's going down. And again, Sophia, jump in at any point if you have questions as well. But I want to play this clip first. This was from late last week. This is Anthony Slater, whose side note is now with ESPN. Congratulations to Slater, by the way. And unfortunately for Slater, he got put in this very compromised position. I'm going to explain what I mean in just a second. But here he is with Brian Windhorst of ESPN. They're both colleagues now. Slater's covering the Warriors for ESPN now. Awesome side note, because all of his work is now going to be available to the public. You don't need to have an athletic subscription anymore to read his work. But this is the discussion where he kind of starts to backtrack off the $30 million thing. And notice how Windhorse emphasizes how the word offer can be misconstrued, how that is not a hard term to define now suddenly. It's wild shit. And I'll let you watch and listen, and then we'll talk some more about it.
If they had gotten that deal done.
The Durant near trade, this deadline's very important here because you go back to last summer, and there's a lot of even angst now, I'd say, about like he was extension eligible last summer, right? It doesn't get done. Part of the reason it doesn't get done, and sure, the way it's been put to me is there was never any offers on the table. There was some dancing around of like,
word, as you know, the word offer is a tough word for media to use, whether it's trade or contract or, offering the job to a head coach. The word offer is a difficult word. I think I know, like with my editors, they'll be like, well, didn't they offer it? I'm like, well, hold on. Just be careful using the word offer because when you use the word offer, you kind of got to defend it. And there's this language game that was played. So I understand what you're saying.
Yes. So what's important there, though, is part of the reason that the Warriors were hesitant to extend Kuminga last summer. And, while, numbers were discussed, and I think Jalen Johnson getting 5 years, 150 gave a target that obviously Kuminga and their his representation, they had ambitious, thoughts about what it could be. I'm of the belief, and I've been told, that they would have taken 5 for 150 if it was ever on the table. It wasn't on the table. And part of the reason the Warriors didn't necessarily want to put an offer on the table and never actually did put a firm, sign on the dotted line type offer on the table is because it would have poison pilled his contract. And they were very much in flexibility mode because they wanted to be able to trade him. And if you sign him to that deal, he's nearly impossible to trade last season. And as you mentioned, they almost traded him for Kevin Durant, which, by the way, I think I think the Warriors, you could argue whether it's better that they got Butler or Durant, but I'll tell you where Jonathan Kuminga wouldn't mind being right now, an extended member of the Phoenix Suns, but
which was probably their plan if they had gotten that deal done.
The Durant.
And so that's the clip there. And look, maybe Slater's right in that it wasn't 5 years, 150. Maybe it was 3 and 90. But he did report a year ago that he got offered $30 million a year. And he reported a year ago that what his camp was looking for was $35 million a year. And the reason why none of this is unrealistic, the reason why the people who act like these numbers are huge, there's no way that could be real. I brought this up countless times, and I'll bring it up again. It is par for the course with that draft class. Cade Cunningham got $314 million guaranteed. And maybe that's not a good example because he was the number one pick. Jalen Green got $146 million guaranteed, and he got that before he proved a thing. Scotty Barnes of the Raptors, $257 million guaranteed. Jalen Suggs, $180 million guaranteed. Franz Wagner, drafted after Jonathan Kuminga, $247 million guaranteed. So don't sit here and tell me that 5 years, $150 million was asking for too much, or an offer that was way more than what my point is, these numbers that we were talking about a year ago, whether it was $35 million a year, whether it was $30 million a year, these numbers were exactly what Kuminga thought he deserved, based entirely off what his peers in his 2021 draft class were making. So what's going on now a year later is, and before I actually continue and explain what's really going on here, and this is entirely with Kuminga's agent, and Kuminga's agent is trying to save face because he looks bad now for turning down $30 million a year a season ago, right? He looks awful for that. So now he's going around saying, we never turned that down. He even tweeted it, bull effing shit. And I'm going to explain why in just a second. But Sophia, do you have any questions, anything you want to add so far as I try to explain this whole Kuminga situation with the agent?
Yeah, I would say I think I can kind of agree with what Windhorst and Slater are saying, and at least in terms of the word offer can be kind of it can be very tricky.
I've heard that too. I've had people tell me that behind the scenes too. And so
that
word offer is
Yes, and
Sorry,
so
sorry, go ahead.
my boyfriend, he plays professionally overseas, so, like, there'll be teams that make that make offers, but until there's actually a number on a contract, that really doesn't mean much,
True,
honestly.
true.
So, I kind of agree with that sentiment that the word offer can be a little tricky. It just can be, misinterpreted as well, I think.
And it very possible. And again, we know that what was not reported a year ago was what the total package was. So we don't know, for example, if the $30 million annually that Slater reported was just for, let's say, 3 years, right? Like we don't know if they were looking for 5 years, 200 million, which maybe is possible. Maybe that is what they were seeking, something in that level. But like Alan Day, for example, in the chat, and I know we've had some back and forths on Twitter, and Alan Day just does not believe that that Kuminga's agent did anything wrong, and he's writing that I'm wrong about Slater getting his information from the agent. And I want to clarify one thing: NBA teams don't release this information. They don't leak this information. All the salary information that we get comes from the agents. That is where all this comes from. Do you have any? Sophia, from your experience, would you disagree? Like, do you think there are teams out there actually leaking out the private personal information of how much players are making? Because you've been in this game your entire life. Please add any context.
I think it does get very messy where, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if certain things do get leaked. I'm not saying it doesn't apply. It's applying to this situation, but I think purposefully leaking does occur.
That's fair. That is fair, especially when you're in a very specific contract negotiations. Here's what I'll say to that. If in fact a year ago Slater was reporting that from the Warriors, and this was not information that they got from Kuminga's agent would have pushed back a year ago, right? Like if a year ago the Warriors were telling people that they offered Kuminga $30 million a year, and that wasn't true, you would have gotten pushback a year ago, not now. Does that make sense, Sophia? Is that being logical or no?
I think it is. I mean, I think it makes sense kind of to
That's
bring
all I'm
it
trying
up
to do.
now,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't, if it was really an issue, they would have deaded it back then.
And again, we could talk about like Eddie 757 for example. And again, this is where I don't like semantical arguments. Like, you know, like the whole purpose of communication is trying to understand what the other person is conveying to you, trying to get a point across. You know, if we're having a debate about semantics now and the word offer, look, if the Warriors verbally told Kuminga's agent, we'll give you $30 million a year, and that's what was then fed to Slater, I don't know why I wouldn't trust that. You know, there's no reason not to. The picture I'm trying to paint here, or at least the whole, that I'm trying to paint a picture here in terms of this whole thing making sense, is that, again, a year ago, Kuminga's agent thought big, dreamed for $35 million a year, which, again, was not a wild idea when you look at what Kuminga's peers were making, right? The Warriors came back a year ago and said, here's $30 million a year. And Kuminga bet on himself, or at least Kuminga's agent thought it would be better if he bet on himself, played out this upcoming season. He thought Kuminga's value would go up. Now, where the logic failed miserably, and I think this applies to all the agents representing the 4 restricted free agents that are still just sitting in limbo right now. This is Kuminga, Josh Giddey, Quentin Grimes, and Cam Thomas of the Brooklyn Nets. All of them are just sitting there in limbo right now. If you're one of their agents, how do you let it get to this point? Like, the math was right in front of you. Your entire job is looking out for your client and being aware of what the landscape's going to look like in the future. Clutch was brilliant in getting Brandon Ingram $40 million a year and securing that contract before this current market where there's no money for anybody. The lack of foresight for these agents is something worth criticizing, I think. I don't know. Am I making sense here, or am I being crazy? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly, I am. The reason I'm on like the basketball side, like I'm more so X's and O's, what's happening
Yes.
on the court. I am not a very good, I would say, like business, front office, management. Don't know too much.
Yet. I think you will figure it out someday.
Yes.
It's a,
Probably,
it's a
yeah.
process.
Probably. But it is interesting, I think, like you just said, just in the ability to predict the future because you can't be myopic in your thinking and just very short-sighted. You have to think on a grand
Yeah.
scale
Yes.
and what these people's futures are going to look like and what the future market might be. And from kind of what I've gathered in this off season, the current market was kind of predicted to be this way. So, on the other hand, though, Jonathan Kuminga Jonathan Kuminga betting himself would probably have worked out. It was just like he didn't really get much opportunity. If you th- so there's
Correct.
also that part. So
Correct.
he kind of
Correct.
proved himself. It just wasn't as much. It was like if you need 100% prove yourself, but you're only given 75% of that total chance and you prove that whole 75, that's cool, but there's still a little piece missing.
And Nick Fensky in the chat, a dear friend of ours, he emailed me this very eloquent, I don't know if essay is the right word. It's turned into a column, but he expressed his thoughts to me in this, again, fantastic prose. And I asked Nick to please publish this content publicly, and he now has. So his Substack is just his name, Nick Fensky. Strongly recommend checking that out. Strongly recommend it because it's great content, especially for an old school diehard Warriors fan. So thanks for doing that. And I think you're absolutely correct in what you just said there regarding Kuminga and the fact that he bet on himself, but he didn't get the opportunities, and that's honestly like part of the gripe that he has, right? Is the fact that he did not get the chance to showcase his skills, and it's at least part of the reason why Kerr's been reaching out, trying to persuade him to come back and play a specific role, and Kuminga's like, no, like you're not swaying me yet, and this is where maybe money is what's going to have to play a part here. I got to talk to this person real estate. Any final thoughts here while I quickly speak to this individual outside my window, Sophia? And if you watch me talking, just ignore that. I'm going to mute myself.
My final thoughts would just be kind of similarly like what I said, where you talk about Jonathan Kuminga betting on himself. I don't necessarily think that was the worst decision you could have made because you want to have that faith. And you talk about him wanting to be here sometimes. Money, yes, it's obviously like more cash in your bank account, but also just kind of a symbolic measure showing him how much the Warriors are actually willing to, or how much the Warriors actually want him. Because if they're like, we only think you're worth this, he might play like that. If they think he's worth in that $30 million range, then he's like, okay, that's what I believe I am. That's why I feel like I deserve. I'll get. So might not even be money thing, but the symbolism of the money.
You're absolutely right, and this is where the agent, I think, deserves some criticism. And please tell me if I'm talking crazy here or not. What I did learn, and this is very esoteric information. I don't know if I'm breaking it, but most people are not aware of this. So whether this helps you in terms of context, information, or what you will, Kuminga's agent has been with him since high school. To the best of my knowledge, he's been the only agent Kuminga's ever had. And so this is the series of missteps that have happened since Kuminga's agent, Aaron Turner, became his representation. And there's a few of them here. And I disagree with all these decisions. One, advising your client to play in G League Ignite instead of playing a year in college. I would never have advised my client to do that. Two, not establishing a better line of communication during the draft process. Kuminga was hyped up, and there was a mock draft that had Kuminga going number 1 in the 2021 NBA draft. He was looked at by nearly every prognosticator, every scout, evaluator, whatever title you want to give to people who cover drafts, college basketball, the transition from college to pros. Every single one of these mock drafts had Kuminga going top 5. He fell to 7. I'm going to put a little bit of the impetus on the agent there because a huge reason why he reportedly fell to 7 was communication or lack thereof. People thought he might have been standoffish. People thought maybe he was egotistical. Side note, this is someone who's from the Congo who speaks 4 languages and maybe whose parents sent him here when he was like 14 in high school. So maybe culturally, he doesn't fit this specific archetype, if you will, of your traditional NBA basketball player, your traditional communicator, if you will. Where was the agent to make sure his value did not drop to 7 in the draft? I will at least place partial blame on Kuminga's agent for that because this was someone, again, talent-wise, who was looked at as top 5. And the higher you are in the draft, the more money you make. So case in point, Josh Giddey, I think, made $2 or $3 million more over his career so far in these first 4 years than Jonathan Kuminga. Giddey was the 6th pick. Kuminga was the 7th pick. And so he was allowed to make more money. That's on the agent. I'm gonna put a little blame there, right? I mean, you need to represent your client better so that their value is higher. Then you have the whole Kuminga coming out publicly criticizing Kerr, right? We all know that event. It happened the day after the Warriors blew a 20-point halftime lead to the Nuggets. Kuminga did not play at all in the second half of that game. And then we reported, by the way, breaking news that night that he was unhappy about that, like pissed. I was getting sources inside the locker room telling me all this. And then the next day, Slater reported it as public fact. And if you're the agent, if you're representing Kuminga, why are you not advising a private line of communication there? Like, why are you taking this public by going to Shams and telling Shams Kuminga's pissed off about his role? And in that very same day, you had Steve Kerr coming out publicly going, my door's open. You know, and maybe there's some fault there on Kerr's side to not make it clear to Kuminga that he could come talk to him directly, but you're his agent. And you know firsthand that he's not happy. You're the one leaking this information. Why not, instead of going public, keep this thing private so you don't have this riff emerging publicly, and which is, I think, a huge reason why there are problems even today. So that's a ding on Aaron Turner's resume, going public with your gripes instead of keeping it in-house. And then last but not least, you have the current situation, which is, again, he may or may not have turned down $30 million a year ago. All the puzzle pieces seem to fit into that conclusion that a lot of other people are now trying to backtrack from, but this is ugly. And I think, you know, the Warriors deserve blame, Kerr deserves blame, Kuminga deserves blame, but I'm looking at Kuminga's agent. And the more I'm learning about him and his actions, the more I'm thinking maybe this is a huge part of the problem. And maybe I'm talking crazy. I don't know. Sophia, your thoughts as we start to wrap it up here, because I do have to bounce.
Yeah, just when you kind of lay all the evidence out, there is some degree of mismanagement there, I think. Or everything could just be entirely circumstantial. We
That's
don't
true.
know. We're
True.
not there
You're
in
right.
the locker rooms and all
You're
that
right.
stuff in the draft room. And I would also just say kind of the agent player coach relationship can be very complicated as well, because there are some agents that kind of like to let their players handle that stuff more so, and there are other agents that are very, very involved, that they're in direct contact with a coach on a daily basis. They're in direct contact with the front office very often. So we don't know what level Jonathan Kuminga's agent is with that, but just looking at how this whole situation has played out between the two different parties, there just 100% is mismanagement on one side, on both sides, on neither side. But it's just a very weird, just scenario I don't think I've ever seen before.
And here's what I'll finish up with, and this is my final thought. I really wish we weren't talking about this. I want to share this graphic with you because we're officially at a point in the calendar year now where ESPN is publishing off-season grades, right? They're literally publishing graphics and content and whatnot. Oh my God, where did my images go? I got to find it real fast here. But the point is, ESPN is releasing their grades for how teams are doing this offseason. And I'm sure you can guess the grade the Warriors got. Incomplete. Here it is right here. Sorry for the delay there. Let me share my screen with you so the visual adds a little more effect to what I'm talking about here. And again, this is the screen capture from ESPN saying, what grade do the Golden State Warriors get for their offseason? Incomplete, because they haven't done a damn thing. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I really loathe this topic. We should be, like you said, Sophia, we should be talking X's and O's right now and not free agent, resumes and this is insanity. Now, good news is we can finish the show on this positive note. And I want to give Palmetto Money some love here for writing this. Palmetto Money in the chat writes, with no guarantee that Al Horford doesn't retire, because we don't know what Horford's going to do. I don't think even Horford knows what he's going to do yet. But what came out today is that, and whether it's true or not is a whole other matter, but just the fact that this leaked out gives me some hope. The Chicago Bulls, reportedly, if they can't find a trade partner for Nikola Vucevic, their all-star center, they might buy him out and waive him. And if that happens, and he ends up going to the Warriors, and then you re-sign Kuminga, and then you add DeAnthony Melton, who's rumored to come to the Warriors, and then you add a Seth Curry, who's reportedly connected to the Warriors. All this content, all these topics are in the past, they're history. And all I'm talking about, Elisa, Sophia, you could join that party, is the Warriors are gunning for a 5th ring in the Stephen Curry era. I hope that is what comes of this. Regardless, the future still looks very bright. And that is the positive in everything we're talking about here. This could all resolve itself and be good, but right now it's incomplete. Here we are. Final thoughts, Sophia.
Yeah, I feel like I don't even know how many shows we've dedicated to this, but I'm kind of at that same level where I would like to be not just constantly trying to make a mountain out of a molehill and these little rumors that are flying around. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know what this team's going to look like. And I just want to be able to look forward and, of course, talk about the current Valkyries.
Oh, and exactly. And that's a whole other matter. They're 2 games below 500. Let's hope they turn things around. I want head coach Natalie Nakase to win head coach of the year. And your broadcast partner, at least part of the time, he's on TV now a lot more, Kevin Dana, he's joining me Wednesday. So between now and Wednesday, who knows if there's any new news dropping, but Kevin Dana is going to talk Valkyries with me. He's going to talk Warriors with me Wednesday, 3 p.m. That is what is booked right now. So that's what's coming up on Golden Days. And I'm sorry, we don't have much else to talk about. This is frustrating, no doubt about that. But at least once a week, the charming, the delightful Sophia Jones joins us to talk Valkyries and so much more. Anything else before we go, Sophia?
I'll just say we don't know what the Warriors are looking like, but we know what the Valkyries are looking like right now. And we play that Atlanta Dream tomorrow at Atlanta at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. So you can listen to the call on the Golden State or Odyssey app.
And again, you're on right after the game for a post-game show. Again, is it a home game tomorrow or road? I'm sorry I missed that.
It's on the road.
Oh, so there won't be a post-game show, right?
No, there is. So right after our broadcast, we go straight into the post-game show.
Perfect. And that's going to be in the Odyssey app, right? And then all the home games.
It's going to be, wherever you listen to the game, it's just going to be right there as well.
Perfect. Exactly. There we go. I got sidetracked because I remember that the home games are also on 95.7 The Game. And then but every game, no matter what, is on the Odyssey app, and you can find it there. Sophia Jones, color analyst for the Golden State Valkyries. She joins us once a week for For Valkyries. That graphic will be updated with quotation marks soon, I promise. Some new graphics coming soon because FanDuel is going to be sponsoring us in just moments. Thanks to everyone, and let's hope there's a resolution soon. Are we done, Sophia?
I think we're good.
Bye-bye. Bye.